Hello and welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV. Tonight, well, as you can see, I've gotten my dancer to the next level. Since dancer is now level 70, I can now do the wrong door. Roll quest for any range physical. And this is the artifact gear for Endwalker for dancer. I quite like it. Not sure if I'm going to use it or the or the one I made here out of it. Usually this is what I'm doing nowadays for my range physical. It actually looks quite good in motion in particular, but I quite like the official artifact gear this time around. Doman Delegate, Seeds of Disquiet. Doman Delegates look seeking able-bodied adventurers on behalf of Lord Hien. It looks like we're going to Doma, the totally not Japan area that we helped liberate from the Garlean Empire during Stormblood. Do my knives disease me? Master Coda, oh thank the kami. Lord Hien has requested the assistance of the resolution of a most urgent matter. Hunt for a fell beast believed to be blasphemy. Though we've made great strides in ensuring the safety of our people, we fear that even our finest shinobi will be no match for this enemy, for it commands the skies of Doma. But as your talent for striking down foes at distance beyond compare, I can think of no one better to aid us than his overcoming adversary. It would be my pleasure. Oh, Kami be praised. I shall inform Lady Ugiri that she may receive you at the Doman Enclave. Safe travels, Master Koda. Wait, what am I doing? I can teleport to the Doman Enclave right here. Here. The Doman Enclave is technically its own instance in that area rather than part of the overworld, which is why when I teleport here, basically counted as a city of sorts. Reclamation. There's also a side quest to rebuild it to gradually make the city bigger. I need to do that eventually. I've heard you get some pretty decent rewards out of it. Plus, of course, the achievement. Hello, Hakuro. How are things? The Alliance recently sent word that it was you who saved Lord Hien and gave the others in their confrontation to the Empire. Words fail to express my gratitude for your timely assistance. I do like that they went through most of the NPC dialogue to make it relevant to what's gone on Endwalker. Pretty much everyone involved in the story at some point was put in the story there, so having them acknowledge what happened really feels nice. It's good to see you, Coda. When we received words that you of all people had answered our call, I could scarcely believe it. Here you are. Well, this would probably make a bit more sense if I was a machinist which uses a gun, or a bard, but, dancer it is. My dancing shall obliterate whatever it is that's flying in the air. Lord Hien will be pleased for this reunion, if you would wait here a moment. Well, the kami should guide your steps to our door once more, and with such fortuitous timing. Pray forgive me for not affording you a hero's welcome, but time is not on our side. Not long after receiving word of men transforming into hideous beasts in Thavnair, a similar creature was born of a woman in Isiari. After attacking another villager, it took the skies and fled, though to where we do not know. An all too cruel twist of fate, for the slain one was among the prisoners returned to us from the Empire. Oh my. As a result of the deplorable exchange between Asahi and the Empire, just when they had all at last begun to piece their life back together. This blasphemy must be stopped. Alas, our foes want to keep the skies well beyond the reach of our samurai and shinobi. And believe me, we threw our swords and knives at it very hard. Thus did we seek the aid of those proficient in ranged combat, able to pluck the beast from the heavens. Of course, martial prowess alone does not solve our problems. Others have turned into weaker but no less gruesome abominations, as was the case in Thavnair, and their numbers increase by the day. From what I understand, this phenomenon is not unlike a sickness which spreads by feeding on fear and anxiety. Emotions which, as of late, can be found in quite abundance. Slaying the beasts means nothing if the people's hearts cannot be put to ease. Put in! Uh-oh. Something tells me we're about to get into a fight already. You have to help the villagers, Hey, sir, please calm yourself and tell us what happened. Another's been turned into my lord. For a blessing, no one else was harmed when the beast flew into a rage, but the people are in panic. I fear what may happen next. It would seem we have even less time than I thought. Worry not, we will see to the beast, and yet there is no cure for this affliction. But we will save the lives we can, I promise you. I trust you are ready to join the fray. My dances are ready. And it was last seen near the glittering basin. Come, I'll show you. Oh, is it gonna conveniently teleport me there? That would be nice, but... yes. Thankfully. Still no sign of the beast, or any other for that matter. Without a cure, we've no choice but to cut them down before they can cause any more harm. The vexed villager. The beast is right here, I swear it. I thank you for leading us here, but it's not safe. Please return to your village. We should split up if we're to have any chance of finding it. Koda, would you see the west? I also search the north, and Ugiri, I leave the east to you. I'm assuming this means we came from the south, so we do not need to search there. Find it, remember, these blasphemies are no longer people. They will not hesitate to strike you down, so you mustn't either. Now, let's not waste any more time. I set my mount to one of the Garo mounts. This is the one for getting 100, specifically wins in front lines, which is one of the bigger PvP modes. It took quite a while to get, so I wanted to equip it to someone, and since it's clearly an edgelord mount, I figure I should put it on the most graceful of jobs. Actually, I probably have the profile for it here. Let's take a moment while I have it here, then. Let's see here. It's not it. Yeah, it's with the crossovers, so it's here. The most daunting of Mado horses, Rygo eclipses its unholy brethren, Goten and Inga in both size and frosty. As such, the creature will not suffer the burden of carrying a soul unbloodied, and therefore unworthy. Ginga here is a lot easier to get. An otherworldly mount cobbled together from the carcasses of noble beasts and armored in elaborate silver plate is said only accept riders who have proven their might in metal the fields of battle. This one's a lot easier to get because Ginga just requires you to do I don't know, a couple hundred, maybe even 300. I have to check the achievement. But yeah, you just do a lot of frontline missions, but you don't have to actually win, which is the big deal. You don't have to actually win them. So Ginga's a lot easier as long as you just commit to the goal of unlocking it. Both these are from the Garo event, which recently began its rerun. And oh dear. I like the animations for Dancer quite a bit. They usually use chakrams, but the throwing knives here were an attempt to make something a bit different. I kind of prefer the chakrams myself, but I don't mind. It's a Dancer and it just uses throwing weapons, so it doesn't have to be anything specific. Alright, Frightened Youth, let's heal them a bit if we can. Dancer actually does have a bit of healing, although the range physical DPS job in general, they all have the most support and lowest DPS of all damage dealers. Are you alright? We heard shouting and came as fast as we could. It appeared Kota arrived not a moment too soon. Why? Why'd you kill my brother? Oh my. Well, Poor brother. Young man, that creature was not your kin, or at least not anymore. Had he not laid it to rest, it would have killed you and countless others. But if your heart cries out for one to blame, let it be me. The beast was slain at my behest, for it was the only way. No, no, you're wrong. You killed him, murdered him. I hate you. In time, he'll learn. I think deep down, the kid already knows what the truth is. He just is having trouble accepting it because it just happened. In time, he'll accept it, but for now, we'd best leave him, I think. I see. What are you doing here? Searching for Tonbo, though clearly you found him first. Monster was his older brother, as you might have guessed, and Tonbo gave chase the moment it ran off. I beg you forgive him for his outburst. His brother was all he had left. Their father was conscripted by the Empire and was, regrettably, not among those returned to us in the recent exchange of prisoners. The hope that they might one day be united was their only comfort in that, when the Viceroy still ruled. I can only imagine how they felt when she walked into Isari, a shadow of her former self. And she had lost her memory at the time. Suyu might have had no memories of the monster she was, but her victims still see her in their dreams. Nevertheless, like many, the brothers prayed your mercy would see their family restored, but when they learned of her death, their father's absence, deprived of hope and hate, all at once, they had nothing. They didn't even have anything to focus their anger on now that Yotsuyu, the Viceroy, was dead. My apologies for rambling. Yotsuyu was definitely a pretty memorable antagonist. She's actually one of the few villains who was one of the main leaders. As I mentioned, she was the Viceroy, so the leader of the Empire occupation of Doma. But she wasn't a fighter, so even when you face her in the dungeon where you take over a castle, she sends an experimental weapon at you rather than fight herself. And of course, then there's the subplot where she ended up losing her memory. And, well, suffice to say, yeah, you learn her family was far worse than even she was. Not that it forgave her, of course. In fact, the fact that all of them ended up dead in the end was a pretty, yeah, I'm not even sure how to put it. I guess the easiest way to put it is just that karma caught up with all of them. No, it was a rather enlightening tale. I spared the woman who brought him pain, took the brother who brought him comfort. I would hate me too. I swear I will set things right for Tonbo, for all the people of Doma. Please return home, Missy, and be safe. Ian has always been a pretty astute individual. Let us return to the Doman Enclave. This ordeal has given me much to consider. When you first play Stormblood and go to the Doma area, you do find out that the missing missing prince of Doma was still alive, but he was in hiding, and he pretty much directly states, well, I will give my own people a choice. My sword to help fight the Empire, or my head if they choose to simply surrender the Empire. Now, that sounds, on the surface, that sounds rather crazy. It's like, why would people willingly give up their only hope of liberation? But you have to remember, Doma had been under control of the Empire for decades by that point, and part of the reason the Empire put someone so cruel in charge was because they wanted to crush people and all their hope of resistance, because even they knew that if the prince ever returned to try and fight them, there would be quite a few people who come back, who would join him, I mean. And there was actually a decent amount who felt it might be better just completely surrender to Empire rule. It was not they were not really eager for revolution like the Alamegans were. The Alamegans were all too eager to fight, only for it to explode in their faces. Which, of course, led to the reason we went to Doma in the first place, which is, of course, what kicks off the Stormblood story in the general sense. And, of course, seeing how a lot of Domans had simply given up on the idea of fighting the Empire to just live as it, to just be all, well, this is my life now, was quite a change of pace. I do not envy Lord Hien the burden now thrust upon him. But he shall not have to bear it alone. I owe you a great debt for your timely assistance, and an apology, for I made you an executioner in young Tonbo's eyes. Would that I had been the one that he witnessed to cut down the beast his brother had become, but we haven't time to dwell on regrets that should have been. No, we need to take action. After hearing of Tombo and his brother, I believe I know what must be done. A great many of our brothers and sisters were returned to us in the prisoner exchange, but even so, there are those who yet remain lost to us. Meanwhile, Yotsuyu, who was directly responsible for much of our people's suffering, was never held accountable for her crimes. In death, she claimed vengeance for her suffering at the hands of her brother and parents, but she had already taken care of them at that point, let's just say that. Like I said, while she's absolutely a terrible person who absolutely should not be forgiven for what she's done, it says a lot that her brother and parents were even worse. Perhaps is a statement about the cycle of abuse and how it can be never-ending. Yeah. Well, nonetheless, yeah, and in death she came vengeance for suffering at the hands of her family, but it came at the expense of justice for her countless crimes. The people of Doma have every right to resent me for failing them in their grief. What of those who cannot bring themselves to do even that, who are left alone in the anger and pain? It may give well to despair, and then they would share the same fate as Tombo's brother, yes, which is why we must needs consider who else might share in this anguish, ere we find ourselves beset by more beasts. I'll begin making rounds of villages to inquire for after those whom their neighbors believe are more distressed as of late. Very good. I and the other shinobi shall continue our search for the blasphemy which set these events in motion. And you, my friend, we will have need of your talents again before long. Rest assured we will keep you appraised of our findings. When the Kami answered, Lord Hien's extended absence from the Enclave does not sit well with Yugiri. Ah, Koda, we've yet to ascertain the whereabouts of the blasphemy from Isari, but for a blessing we've received no reports that others have turned. Lord Hien, for his part, has made a concerted effort to go about the villages and converse with the subjects directly. I suspect his constant presence has served to allay the people's fears. As one might expect, he has ever been dedicated and diligent, but I fear he's been away over long. I thought to go and visit what might have been his last destination. Sorry, might I ask you to accompany me? Of course. Thank you. I'm sure there's no cause for concern, but nevertheless, I should be glad to find him quickly. Alright, this is in the Ruby Sea. Might actually be easier to go to Nami here and then zone out. Yeah, I think it would, actually. So let's do precisely that. Oops, accidentally clicked outside the window there. Sweet chain. I think I mentioned before, but while Stormblood was advertised as being about 50% liberating Alamigo and 50% liberating Doma, we actually ended up spending about more 75-30, with 70 or 30, with most of it being spent in Doma. I don't mind it. It had a lot of nice subplots to it, but it definitely was a bit weird that the Alamigan subplot, the Alamigan main plot, was put to the side for so long. Ah, here he is. Glad to see he's okay. Thank goodness we found him, but why he remained here for so long, I wonder. Oda, Yugiri, my apologies if I gave you cause for concern. Assessing the state of affairs here in Assyria has proven difficult. To put it simply, the people, one and all, refuse to speak with me. They simply bow their heads and turn away my approach. Knowing the blasphemy originated here, I can't help but wonder if that has aught to do with their silence. Perhaps we could attempt to gauge people in my stead. Surely they have no reason to deny the two of you. I should hope not. Nevertheless, I will don a disguise, lest I draw undue attention. Come, Koda, let us see what we can discover. Thank you, both of you. Odds are they'll recognize me since I helped them back during the Stormblood storyline, but I suppose I could always just claim that I'm a traveling dancer now. It's not technically wrong, after all. Male dancer outfits can be kind of hit or miss for me, but I do quite like this one here. This is really the only ranged physical DPS job I've been raising. I think when I first started the game, I ended up going with, pretty. Yeah, I ended up starting with an archer, which went into bard, because in this game, bard and ranger are basically combined into just one job. So basically all songs and all archery skills are put into one here. Not the first time I've seen a bard archer type combination, but a neat one all the same. And then later they added machinist, which does use guns, but also, as the name suggests, gadgets. I believe they have a drill, flamethrower, chainsaw. I know they added a couple of those in this expansion. That's always pretty neat, although they do also have some clever gun tricks as well. Physical range DPS are all the lower damage than caster physical. As I'm muscle wizard, I cast fist. Uh, Mages like red mage and black mage, summoner, and of course melee jobs are usually stronger. Ones like reaper, ninja, dragoon. Those are all stronger, but the nice thing about ranged physical is that they also have the most support. I mean, dancer. I mean, improvisation here heals the party, as does curing waltz. Shield Samba, all three of them have a defense buff for the party, but yeah, you can get what I mean here. They have low damage, but they have great support for it, and Dancer is even more extreme. Dancers absolutely focus on team support over personal damage. So if you like to be a team player, or people like to have dancers around. Villager. Aye, that's right. The blasphemy born of a young woman here in Asari. Tragic, really. Every day she prayed for the safe return of her husband, but it was not to be. Even if I am honest, I fear the loss drove her poor stepmother mad. Issei has ever been a devout believer in the calming their blessings, but she somehow convinced herself that Minato's become one. The delusions of a grieving parent, obviously, but an alarming number of people have come to share in her belief. Heresy is what it is. I see, so in their despair, they turned into a false deity. Almost like the primals, then. Or the people of Yulmore and Shadowbringers who worshipped the Sin Eaters. Kami feared villager. Blasphemy, you're mistaken, my friend. Our village was visited not by a monster, but a Kami, Izanami themselves. Where Lord Heian is cold and callous, she offers us boundless compassion and love. Oh yeah, this is definitely sounding like a primal summoning situation. Or with the people of Yulmore. I mean, they considered being killed by Sin Eaters to be a blessing there, while everyone else saw it as horrible. A murder. I owe a great debt to Lord Heian. If not for him, I'd still be fighting under the Imperial standard, but the village suffered dearly under the occupation. What's more, our Lord failed to punish the Viceroy for her crimes and failed to reunite many with their loved ones. I understand why some think poorly of him, even if I do not. Well, glad the burly villager there still has a good head on his shoulders. But this explains why they wouldn't speak with Heian for any amount of times. The situation here in Asari is complicated, to say the least. So we explain to Heian what's going on. See, little wonder they would refuse to confide in me. The belief held that some of this blasphemy is a kami, however, is quite concerning. Izanami presides over life and death. She gave birth to the nation of Doma, and ushers souls of the departed unto the land of the dead. I trust you understand what this would mean to deny them a source of hope in these dark times, even one such as this. Villagers also claim this Kinsey can speak with the dead. Can speak with the dead. In fact, she'll be holding a gathering to demonstrate her powers ere long. The perfect opportunity to gauge the extent of this fanaticism. Not for me, of course. My presence would draw too much undue attention. I'd ask you both to attend in my stead. Followers will be gathering in the tavern. Come. Tried to go for a dramatic camera angle there, but I'm not sure it actually worked. Hello, this is a bar, so I'm here to dance and show off in merry cheerfulness. O spirits of this Sadi, I beseech you, let your voice, lend me your voice and let your presence be known. Cross the veil and be among us once more. Nothing happened. Akutsu. Oh, she's being... I see, it's channeling its power through her. Father? Oh, dang, I did the more masculine voice to show it as menacing, but that was actually fitting. Still tending the nets like I taught you. Yes, Father, every day, thanks to you, we never want for fish. Our bellies are never empty. I was proud to be your son. I was always too embarrassed to tell you before, but... I am proud to have been your father. May you ever be blessed by the sea's bounty. But it's... Father, what's wrong? Alright, so there's obviously a couple ways. Since we know how the afterlife in this universe works, we know it doesn't quite work this way, but... He's in terrible pain, my child. Those who have cheated death's design yet live. It has disrupted the natural order and the spirits suffer for it. What must we do to ease their pain? Fear not, Izanami shall put all to rights. She will claim the souls not long for this world and deliver them to the hereafter. When her work is finished, your father's spirit and the others will find peace. I can... You find my father, can let me speak with him. Kisei, can you commune with my husband? Go to my family, help me, Kisei, please. Kisei, please. Alright, so there's a few things I think might be causing with this. First of all, it could be the elderly woman is simply acting, because since she's elderly, she could have known everyone before they left or were killed, and therefore she would know how they would act. Any discrepancies in their voice would potentially make sense, since she's claiming she's being used as a vessel for the afterlife to speak through her. Now, the souls of the dead do remain in the life stream of the planet before they're used to be reborn. That's why we were able to see friends and enemies alike when we went in there during the Endwalker story. But... does she truly have a connection? One that required massive devices for our group to speak with them. Alright, well, I guess we have precisely what we need here. We don't need to make ourselves known, or make any requests of our own, in fact. She seemed convincing enough. Was it truly Kitsu's father that spoke through her? So, is Kisei's ability all that she claims? She did seem to get possessed for a short period of time, but it could be that a young man spoke with his dearly departed father through her. I find that rather hard to believe. So, those in attendance were quite convinced, my lord. Well, it could also be that they were so eager to see it to believe it, they believe it. And I suspect a great many of the villagers I've spoken with recently are as well. Everywhere I went, the people were in so much pain, and there was nothing I could do or say to give them solace. Yet for all their anguish, there was not a single report of villagers turning since the incident since Tombo's brother. Which can only mean words of Kisei and her ability to speak with the deceased has spread. The belief we can commune with our loved ones in death is comfort far beyond my power to provide. Though I fail to see how the people would abide the kami claiming innocent lives restore order. Yeah, she conveniently made up an excuse. She comes, it is Izanami. The blasphemy here? Huh. Izanami is a common recurring character in Shin Megami Tensei. She is in the original Megami Tensei, the goddess reincarnated, or goddess reborn, she was the goddess in question, so of course she appears in most of the games. But let's see how it is here. Lord, he and the kami, she appears from nowhere, and the next instant this poor man, he was... So we were too late. Wasn't he one of the villagers returned in the prisoner exchange, actually? You recognize him, then? Curious that he and the blasphemy's first victim were former conscripts. What could the fiend be after, I wonder? It does not become my lord speaking of the kami. Now we have to be careful. It could be that Kisei is in her grief. I understand you are coming to investigate rumors of a monster born of a village. A blasphemy, you call it, but you are sorely mistaken. Truth be told, it could be that she's trying to con the rest of the villagers to focus themselves around her, but it could also simply be that in her grief, she's started to make herself something she's not entirely because of what she hopes to accomplish. She's trying to cling to some sort of hope. My stepdaughter, Minato, was chosen to serve as a vessel for Izanami. I witnessed her ascension with my own eyes. Ugh. Good, I can use the echo to revisit the moment of transformation, and we can see the truth behind this. Minato, please! I can't, I won't. There's no logic in it, no justice. The Witch of Doma spared, given a second chance, and my husband condemned to die as a conscript. I'll never know what became of him. Lord Hien can't even give me that. And when I look at the families he made whole in their happiness, I feel the hole in my heart, a gaping wound that will never heal, begin to feed. I see, she was about to jump before despair got her completely. Only at my beloved's side will I find peace. You mustn't lose faith, Minato. All will be well. Trust in the Kami, in Izanami. I want to believe, but... That's one of the least monstrous-looking ones. Which certainly explains why they mistook it as... interesting. Alright, well, I saw what I needed to see. Izanami's come to bring peace to the souls apart, restore the balance between their Nars. Surely you would not dare to defy the will of the Kami. This balance of which you speak has claimed the lives of two innocents but recently returned to us. Will not accept the Kami would condone such cruelty. No crueler than the sight of Yotsuyu free and forgiven while my husband and son fought in Garlemon's wars, now dead and forgotten in a foreign land. With all due respect, Lord Hien, is it not your duty to protect Doom and the people? How are we to place faith in the man who places an enemy's safety and well-being above that of his own subjects? Only the Kami are deserving our adoration, as they always have been. I do appreciate that these storylines have all made it clear that while falling into despair is what causes them, you can't just tell people, well, don't be sad. It never boils down to anything that simple. Rather, it requires dealing with the issue that caused the despair in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong, the idea of people being converted into something terrible because of despair is not an original concept, not by a long shot. That's why I occasionally refer to the blasphemies as witches from Madoka Magica. However, just boiling it, however, some do make the mistake of saying you need to just avoid a feeling down, to avoid it when it's simply not that easy. But the story goes out of its way to make sure that's not the case. I mean, even with the, in particular the healer one, dealing with the former conscripts or people who freely chose to join the Imperial Army having to find peace, that's a pretty big deal, especially since the ones people were already wary of were in fact the ones converting into monsters because they were the ones at biggest risk of despair. And simply arresting them or doing something like that to contain them would just make them fall into despair sooner. Something serious had to be done, because the only way a cultural shift like that could happen is through naturally letting time pass. But that's not going to happen anytime soon, obviously. As I mentioned, a big deal with the Stormblood storyline is that both had been under Empire rule for decades by this point, by the time we get to our point in the story when we liberate them. So many people grew up knowing only Imperial rule and not knowing what was so bad about it until we showed them ourselves. As such, it would take at least another generation shift before people realized, I think people were being a bit too harsh. A completely understandable way of doing things, but you can't just sit and wait for that. Especially not when you can do something now. Are you alright? For a moment you seemed unwell. The villager is no doubt loath to ask it of me, but preparations must be made for burials and funeral rites. I can offer that much at least. You seem distracted during conversation. Is something the matter? I saw when she converted into the blasphemy, the echo, and the blasphemy was indeed born of her stepdaughter. To bear witness to such horror, how her mind must have struggled to comprehend what she saw. As a woman of faith, perhaps seeing her only surviving family become one of the divine was the only reality with which she could come to terms. I believe I now know what must be done, but I pray her fervor does not drive her to oppose us. Come, let's return to the Enclave. This is an extremely touchy thing to go with, but I'm glad they went there. I mean, we did briefly touch upon faith and honor and that sort of thing with the tank role storyline, but this one covers a bit with the fact that, well, her faith is the only thing causing that grandma from becoming a monster herself, as well as the rest of the village for that matter. Not for that. That's a big thing. While Ian was still alive to become the prince that would liberate Doma, the issue is he was taken from the castle at a very young age and pretty much grew up on the lam. As such, his ability to lead, while he most likely had learned some things along the way, yeah, he's still inexperienced as a leader and has to learn as he goes along. Still, as I said, he is very mature for his age, and that's why he seriously considered, well, if his people would prefer Doma be under control of the Empire than itself, then fine, that's their choice. People need to decide that for themselves. But from what she told me of her vision, the nature of Minato's despair, as well as the focus of her ire, is clear. It is plain she was a good-natured and kind-hearted woman grieving for the loss of her husband. This loss alone may not have been enough to turn her, but my failure to hold Yotsuyu to account, together with the sight of other families reunited, compounded the turmoil in her heart. Path to despair paved by my good intentions, a truth that will weigh heavily on my conscience until my dying day. Minato was prepared to die in sadness rather than live in hatred. If she could see the beast she has become, she would implore us to stop her, I'm sure. Which is why we must find others who will return to us in the prisoner exchange before they come to harm. Once our safety is assured, we may hunt down the blasphemy and bring close this tragedy. Yeah, that seems to be the thing. For me, the witch is specifically targeting people from the exchange because they were reunited with their families while she wasn't. And the grandma, she's just trying to cope with everything the best of her ability, so she just has to assume there must be a good reason for it. And that it has to happen so that she doesn't have to face the reality that, well, all what remains of her granddaughter has to be stopped. Home no longer. There's work to be done, yet Yugiri seems reluctant to take action. Ah, Kota. You've come to ask after the blasphemy. I've not to share. As of yet, our shinobi have seen no signs of the beast. The returnees, however, are all accounted for, and Lord Hien has seen them safely to Kane Khan. As such, he is presently assisting with the hunt. For blessing, there have been no reports of other villagers turning, and yet, before the situation takes turn for the worse, there's a matter I feel wants further investigation. He say, though a villager of Isari, I suspect she may in fact hail from my home, Sui no Sato. Knowing they may loathe to answer my inquiries, I entreated the Kojin to contact in my stead. Basically, Yugiri's hometown is an underwater town protected by magic, and it's one of those isolated cities where people are never supposed to come or go except on specific reasons. But Yugiri left on her own, if I remember right. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but yeah. So she has a bit of a strained relationship with the place, is the point of it. To hear tell of it, Princess Kurenai has made great strides in establishing stronger ties with the outside world. On mention of Kisei, however, their cordial strength will turn strangely cold. If we were to learn more, I fear we have little choice but to go speak with them ourselves. A simple visit for you, I imagine, but my banishment... she was booted from there. She didn't leave on her own. That said, it's been many years since I left home. Were I to disguise myself, I could probably go unnoticed through the company if you're willing to take a risk. Hey, leave it to me. Thank you. Let's make for Onkoro, then. I think... I was trying to figure out if this or Amamitsu was closer, but it looks like at the town Mitsu is slightly closer, but... 6 of one or half dozen of the other, really. Yeah, basically they were an isolated town underwater that was trying to avoid too much contact with the outside world unless they had to. But at least that does make it easy for Yugiri to become a ninja afterwards, because it means she has no history or anything. She can easily be a Black Ops agent for King Hien. The garments I wore when we first met. Sufficient, I think, to conceal my identity. This is obvious. How many years have been since I last saw home? Yeah, this is the outfit she first wore when we met her at the start of a... Well, it wasn't the start, but it was during the patch cycle of A Realm Reborn. She was basically to serve a way to serve implications of two things. First of all, to be a representative of Duma, since she was always from that nation. However, more importantly, she was also to be a representative of the Aura race. She actually wore a mask and everything to conceal herself because they actually didn't have the Aura models ready yet, so she was just a modified Makode until they could get it done. But yeah, she was to hint at the new playable race and eventually a new country that would show up. Heaven's Ward was when the Aura became playable, but they did not become... But Doma was not until Stormblood, a little later. And Ninja was added during the patch cycle of A Realm Reborn, although they mentioned they originally planned to have it at release, but it ended up getting delayed. Sigh, how many years has it been since I last saw home? I sure want to do this then? I am a shinobi of Doma, but even as a child, I sought to ensure the safety and survival of Sui no Sato. I was quite bold in those days, if not a touch reckless, and together with the other children, I often ventured beyond the borders of home. We yearned for adventure, and so one day we sought to behold the wonders of Doma. Imagine our horror to discover a city of ruin and ash, Imperial soldiers marching through the streets. We fled at the sight, but in my haste, I lost my way in the bamboo groves. Here's there I first met a young boy named Shun, a sweaty mess as he swung his sword and with reckless abandon, trained to fulfill his duty as a samurai, he said. Having seen the destruction of which the Empire is capable, I too felt the need to protect my home. I joined in as an exercise, and each day, my resolve to protect those I love grew. Sadly, my elders refused to listen. They were content to remain hidden beneath the waves, and hopefully, beneath the Empire's notice. With a heavy heart, I left in search of strength I believe we sorely needed, and I found it as a shinobi. But the people feared war and conflict would fall on my heels should I return. I do not begrudge them for their decision, nor do I regret mine own. Part of me is overjoyed at the thought of seeing home again, openly defying the wishes of the Ruby Princess. Openly defying the wishes of the Ruby Princess, however, would bode ill for my family. They've suffered enough for my transgressions. That's why, for their sake, I would remain naught but a faceless shinobi in your employ. Well, I've helped them out a lot before. I'm sure they'd have an easy time believing I'd have retainers. I mean, I technically do. That's how they handle banking systems in this game, after all. Thank you. With that in mind, let us return for make for Sui no Soto. Alright. Oh, it just teleported me down here. Well, that was convenient. Yeah, you enter and exit through those holes. The surprise of absolutely no one, the secret city beneath the waves is completely protected by magic. They obviously do a lot of fishing and stuff to keep themselves going. But I should probably just continue on here. All these years, yet naught appears to have changed since the day I left, but now is not the time to reminisce. We have work to do. Kisei's departure from Sui no Sato was likely decades ago. Perhaps the village elders know why she chose to leave. Yugiri is now accompanying you. Anything I might help with, sir? What kind of place is this? Long ago we, the Rain, were driven from our ancestral home. Our forefathers sought refuge under the sea, and thus the humble but peaceful village of Sui no Soto came to existence. We are ruled by the Ruby Princess. Few besides those who serve at the royal courts, however, know her face, and even seldom does see her in person. Members of the royal family rarely, if ever, leave Shisui of the Violet Tides. The Ruby Princess lady-in-waiting will occasionally come visit the village, however, and bring with her regaling tales of what life is like in her court. And that is one of the dungeons that you do in Stormblood, actually, as something goes wrong and you have to save the Ruby Princess. Amiable Elder. You see? The name sounds familiar, and yet, apologies, my friend, my memory's not what it was. Let us seek out another. I can mount up in here, but I kind of want to avoid if I can, if at all possible, simply because when you have a follower, they don't follow you when mounting. They follow you if you teleport, and it's within the designated quest area, but I admit I have mixed feelings on the follower quests. On one hand, I do genuinely like getting all the different dialogue and such along the way, but on the other hand, Cheerful Elder, I'll have to remember there's one there. Is there one here? No, there is not. Well, I guess I know what I need to do. Ow. Well, it's fine. You can't die from fall damage in this game unless you're already in combat. Here we are. Cheerful Elder. My, it has been quite some time since I last heard that name. She's a priestess of the village, banishing after drawing the ire of the former Ruby Princess. What's become of her after all these years, I wonder? Is there anything you can tell us? Unagi was quite close with her if memory serves. Perhaps you should seek her out. Mother, I had hoped to avoid my parents, but if there is no other way, Code, I might ask you to take the lead again. I think that's Mine and not mine, but... Basically, if I remember right, certain aura use very old Japanese names. And I mean ancient Japanese names. Mozu, Mahiwa. Well, you can probably get examples here. Unagi. Yanami. I say, not the adventurer who aided Yugiri in Duma's liberation. Speak with you, Barry. Has so many fond memories. Pay no mind. Lead on. It's good to see you again, and what do we owe the honor of your visit? Well, we have to see if you can remember anything about... say. You say. Yes, we were close, but that was a long, long time ago. Still, if I can be of assistance to the man whom we owe so much, I will share all I know. Issei was born to a family of priests, and even at an early age she possessed extraordinary abilities. Much was expected of her, but everything changed the day she said she could speak with the dead. No one believed her at first, but she continued to insist she could, and strove to prove it by demonstrating knowledge well beyond her years. Knowledge of events she could not have been privy to. Words of her talent reached the Ruby Princess, and she was summoned to the Suishi of Violet Tides for a private audience. No one knows what Kisei said to her in that palace, only that the princess was incandescent with rage and ordered her exile forthwith. Some believe Kisei revealed a terrible secret to the royal house, or perhaps spoke a blatant falsehood that proved her a liar. Indeed, the knowledge she claimed to divine from the dead was not always truthful, but who's to say the dead would know the truth, or not seek to deceive? Thus, we can never be certain if it was simple fantasy or a power divine. One thing for certain is that no small number of people found comfort in her words. Would that I could tell you more, but sadly I have not seen or spoken with Kisei since her banishment. Forgive me, but have we met your companion before? She looks familiar. Well, I promised to keep the secret, so... As much as I think they could use a proper reunion, I do think we should honor our word to Yugiri. I believe this is the first time our humble shinobi has visited Sui no Suto. How's that so? For the briefest of moments, you reminded me of someone quite dear to my heart. Being a shinobi, I presume you've heard tales of Yugiri Mistwalker. Should you chance to meet her, may I ask you to deliver a message? Tell her father and mother love her, and we could not be more proud. I will. I have no doubt she feels the same, and not a day goes by without you in her thoughts. I think both of them are fully aware of who they are, I think. By that extension, I hope she respects that I kept Yugiri's secret. I believe we've heard enough. Shall we return to Onokoro? Sounds good to me. I imagine this little set piece was at least in part to get Yugiri in the outfit she wore during A Realm Reborn for the sake of fan service. I mean, the whole point of Endwalker is to have all throwbacks and make everything from before relevant again, after all. And it has been nice being able to reminisce on virtually everything that's been going on, but I do think it works out well enough. After all, we still needed information to get from... After all, while this was technically a bit of a detour, it was nice to have Yugiri in meeting her parents again, and like I said, I am absolutely confident that her mother and father know who she really was, and she knew they saw through the disguise as well, but keeping up appearances for the sake of it, since, you know, officially she's banished, and they don't want to break that. And by that same token, I'm pretty sure they're all well aware that I was just doing that to try and keep Yugiri's secret there. Or at least that's how I interpret it. My apologies for placing you in so peculiar a situation. Though I must confess, it did my heart good to see Mother and Father well. All the more reason I must do all I can to keep the peace, as a shinobi of Doma, no, a member of the Eastern Alliance. Mayhap there will come a day when Sui no Soto opens the world, a day when Yugiri Mistwalker can be reunited with her father and mother. Would that Lord Hien could be afforded the same opportunity. But Lady Cayenne and Lady Mina have long since passed, two of too many lives lost in the Imperial occupation. Unfortunately, that's smart on the Empire's part, because taking out the royal family, the place you conquered, is kind of important. Because like I said, as long as Hien was alive, that always meant a possibility of him rising up, and of course, there are plenty more than a few people who are going to be joining him, which is why they try to break the spirit of the people to try and give him up. Or at the very least, make them make them indifferent enough to not care enough to rise up if he ever did. I cannot imagine he would ever succumb to despair, but make no mistake, Lord Hien knows the pain of his people all too well. I can see it in his eyes, and if I may be honest, it troubles me at times. But perhaps I have said too much. Come, we mustn't keep him waiting. This felt like a rather short storyline. Well, like I mentioned in one of the earlier episodes, these role quests are intended to be done as you're leveling, so you're supposed to be getting the story as you finish the final half of Endwalker. Doing it all at once does make it easier to keep all the details of the story in line, but it does also mean the intended point of natural gaps in the story are not happening. I am very glad the game has gradually been removing any gender-locked outfits. It always felt like a bit of a silly thing, you know? I mean, as much as people meme about Final Fantasy having really weird outfits, sometimes playing around with that is part of the appeal, and an MMO like this is perfect for experimenting with strange outfits. Her blessing on Okoro appears to be untouched by the recent chaos, or at least for now, anyway. Welcome back. I trust your journey proved an enlightening one. So she does, in fact, hail from Sui no Sato, and you say she possessed these divine gifts since childhood. Genuine or no, the people believe in her, and more flock to her side with every passing day. The attorneys are safe in Kinkan, its defenses bolstered. As for the blasphemy, I have spoken with our Confederate allies, among others, and together we'll establish a network of contacts across the length and breadth of Doma to take up the search in earnest. Mark my words, we will find it. The devoted daughter. Yugiri appears armed and ready to leave the Enclave, which can only mean one thing. You've arrived not a moment too soon. The blasphemy has been sighted on the coast. For mercy, there are no reported casualties as of yet. Just the man I was hoping to see. No sooner had we cast wide our net than a Confederate messenger was at our door. If you would join us, Rasho waves our arrival at Onokoro. Fortunately, I think the villagers are going to be stopping us. We need to figure something out with Kisei before they'll allow us to fight it. Because right now, the religious devotion... I mean, first of all, it's the only thing stopping them from falling into absolute despair. And more importantly, I mean, at this point, I think it's safe to say that Kisei has basically formed a cult around herself. Not only does she finally have the coping mechanism to avoid, the despair of her granddaughter's death, but she also has people finally respecting her talents of talking to the dead. Hear about the blasphemy, yes? Lord Hien and Yugiri should be arriving soon enough. Alright, let's see how this goes then. Well now, the noble Lord of Doma should come here in person once again. Mayhaps these blasphemies truly are a threat. Indeed they are, and I was told you and yours had sighted our quarry quite recently. Aye, we did, near the islands of Shoal Rock. The beast appeared to be docile by all accounts, but appearances can be deceiving. If it is as you say, this blasphemy only has eyes for former conscripts, then we have naught to fear. I trust that those we accept in our care are still in yours, Heinken, enjoying the finest Doman hospitality? Anyway, I know not why it came to the Ruby Sea, nor why it remains idle. But if we act quickly, there's a chance we can take it unawares. I suppose if we divide our forces, if you're willing to go... We divide our forces. If you're willing to go ashore, we'll take a ship and circle the island. The first to find it will have the honor of the kill. Ha, simple enough plan. Shall we be off to Shoal Rock, then? You know, come to think of it, I don't know if Final Fantasy has had Izanami as one of the summoned spirits before. I mean, we did run into, we had Susano and... who's the other one? Yeah, I was gushing about Susano when he finally made a second cameo appearance in the tail end of Endwalker, and that was... so you can guess he's a favorite of mine. Oh yeah, we've also had Tsukiyomi, but that's about it off the top of my head. Make ready, Coda. Should we find the beast first, we must be prepared to strike at once. I guess I can look it up later. This is where the blasphemy was last sighted. If the fates are kind, this will all be over soon. Oh, nice. Then we can end this at the level 88 quest, and it'll all be done. Actually, let me check something here. Fantasy Izanami. Ah. Izanami is not usually a character in Final Fantasy, but a weapon. There's a few that are like that, where they're most known for being something else. For example, Titania is a character in this game, but in most Final Fantasy games, Titania is a species of fairies, a high-ranking one, but not the wife of Oberon, unlike she normally is in a Midsummer Night's Dream. This is where the blasphemy is last sighted. That'll be nice. We should go in, kill it. We can end this at roll quest at level 88, and I can go ahead and paint this outfit. And for the record, the purple thing is actually my ring and not part of the outfit. Your gloves have to... if you're wearing gloves, they have to be... expose your fingers if you want to have your, rings visible. Sadly, most outfits in this game make it hard to see accessories. Like, for now, you can't see my necklace because the shirt covers my neck too much. Ah, damn. Such speed, I doubt even my falcons could keep pace with it. Although, since my character's a Makode, it does mean earrings show off a bit more. It's only on one ear here, but I'm sure you saw the little snake-looking earring. And that is a nice thing about animal characters. The bigger ears makes piercings and stuff a lot easier to see. Ah, don't tell me that. The blasphemy flying off in the distance. I'd hoped the ill will it bore me in life might compel the beast to stay and fight. Perhaps less of Minato remains than I thought. Minato? That monstrosity's Minato! You know her? Her family tried to flee Ingnashi during the occupation, but their ship was raided and sunk. When we happened upon the wreckage, she was hidden huddled between her parents on a piece of flotsam, desperate to keep warm, but they had long since grown cold, if you get what my meaning. We took her to Onokoro where we nursed her back to health. Couldn't imagine the horrors she must have witnessed. The mere sight of our weapons was enough to make her start screaming. She was clearly unfit for our trade, so we sought a village that might take her in. Sorry was that village. Several months later, I chanced to meet her on this very beach. She was in the company of a young Ori fisherman. I knew at once she had found more than a home there. I saw them here many times after that. She found something comforting about this place, I think. According to the reports at Razat Han, the memories and desires of those who turn can influence their behavior as blasphemies. And perhaps Minato's memories are what compelled the beast to come here. That would also explain its timid nature. Minato was never one for violence, and the sight of you, blade drawn, no doubt stirred what little of the woman remains in that monster. If that's the case, then the assault on Kinkan is unlikely, guarded as it is by our samurai. But how are we to fight an enemy so quick to flee at the first sign of danger? Robbed of our parents and our husband, and now our life, I'd rather we didn't have to at all. But I understand the risk we take by doing nothing. If we catch sight of the blasphemy, you'll be the first to know. Perhaps next time we can put her soul to rest. So whatever made her fall into despair, it must have been she found a husband of sorts, but then he ended up dying, likely at the hands of Yotsuyu if I had to wager. Perhaps something even more recently. We scarcely had time to draw our weapons ere it fled. Perhaps we must reconsider our approach. There's naught to do now but bide our time. Come, let us return to the Enclave. Wow, this one was really short. Well, not all of them are going to be really long. So far, I think if I had to guess, I think the caster quest might have been the longest one. Yeah, because aside from working with the Limsa Lominsa, which has a lot of long-winded people, and yeah, I know, rich coming from me. Yeah, we also had that subplot with the adventurers there, which I think I mentioned at the time, but they were also some people we met with during Realm Reborn storyline. More specifically, they were helping us during the Titan storyline, and in my opinion, the Titan storyline is where the Realm Reborn storyline actually starts getting good. That's around level 30, however, and there's 50 levels, so you can... And while leveling is faster now than it was back then, it is still a little bit to get to the really good parts of the story. Or at least for the Realm Reborn. There's a good reason many argue on when it gets good, but pretty much everyone agrees that Heaven's Ward is when it really starts... The game really starts bringing its ace. Bring its A-game. If the blasphemy fears to show itself, then there's no telling how long it may take to track it down a second time. Okay, so let's go over our plan again. Though something is probably about to happen. Given what we have learned, it seems like the blasphemy will return to Shoal Rock, but that knowledge will avail us not if we cannot prevent it from escaping again. Oh dear, the fishing village is here, I see. Lord Hien, on behalf of the people of Asari, we have come to make a request. We welcome you with open arms and open hearts. What is it you would ask of me? I think he already knows that it's not going to be what he wants, but those returned to us in the prisoner exchange have been granted shelter in the Kiankan. That they yet live is an affront to the Kami's grand design. The spirits of our loved ones suffer. Balance must be restored, so I beseech you to render them upon the goddess Kami. Oh, absolutely not. 'Tis not our place to pray for the death of others, nor to draw steel to sate mere bloodlust. When I take a life, be it by command or my own hand, I do not do it in service of vengeance, but to uphold my duty of Doma and her people. How did your mercy for Yotsuyu serve your duty? How are your people made better by the sight of walking her free? For her crimes and cruelty, I cut her down the day we took Doma Castle. I sought to kill her, and by rights, she should have died then and there. But the Kami willed otherwise, and returned her to us alive. the kami willed otherwise and returned her to us alive and bereft of her memories. With no recollection of her deeds, it would have been Tsuyu who faced punishment and not Yotsuyu. This was my judgment, and for it you were denied the justice you deserved. You have every right to resent me. But you come before me and ask that I sacrifice men and weapon whose only crime was to suffer, to be condemned to a life of servitude. If you truly believe your cause to be sacrosanct, believe yourselves fit to bear the burden and swing the sword, then step forward. Sophistry and lies. They were meant to die. The spirits demand it. Are these the words of the dead or the living who yet mourn? I figured this guy would be showing up sooner or later. Gotetsu was obviously a major character during the Stormblood storyline. In fact, he was the one who came during the Heaven's Ward, or the patch storyline, to tell Yugiri about how things were in Doma, and to be a preview of the samurai job that would be later introduced. However, he and Yotsuyu were thought to have died at the castle, but then they end up surviving. However, for Gosetsu, while Yotsuyu had lost her memories, Gotsuyu kept his but got a more physical injury, and as such, he cannot fight again, and so he shaved his head and has since become a monk on a wandering pilgrimage. Word of the Asari priestess and her gifts have spread far and wide, and I thought I'd see the truth for myself. By coincidence, I crossed paths with a traveler hailing from the selfsame village who had a mind to return as well, but alas could not, so he bid me deliver a message in his stead. Judging by the striking resemblance, I take it you are the young fisher Akitsu. This is a letter from my father. He was severely wounded in battle, but expects to make a full recovery. In this, we have absolute proof that Kisei's speaking with the dead is false. It's impossible for her to speak with a dead person who is not with a dead person that is. She claimed to be speaking as Akitsu's father, but if his father's still alive, he can't possibly be speaking from the realm of the dead. He's alive, but that would mean. Surely a woman of your talents can divine a plausible explanation for this turn of events. You shall pay for this contumately. My daughter will make certain of that. She's not even trying to deny it, so she conned them the entire time. So she was conning them and just... in fact, this seems to have been a con she was doing since she was young, since apparently the, that also means, by extension, the Ruby Princess likely expelled her for being false, and they were able to figure out that she was lying. Apologies for the abrupt and otherwise unannounced arrival. As you can see, my lord here and I have returned. Well, glad am I for it. Thanks to your timely arrival, we have given the lie to Kisei's claims of preternatural powers. I gather you are appraised of recent events? I did not take long to learn the state of affairs here in Doma, and that my assistance may be required. I heard tales of Kisei channeling the dead, including the father of a young fisherman. Imagine my surprise when I saw his spirit in the flesh. He was also on a pilgrimage, paying respects to the departed, and we chanced upon to meet in the Liberation Front infirmary. Would that we were not back together under such circumstances, but I'm glad to see you hale and hearty. And I can show you a few of the dance moves I've learned in your absence. Don't get me wrong, I do think Kisei is still in complete coping mechanism mode about her daughter being the goddess. However, she also is trying to get her own vengeance along the way, thinking that the two are connected. Tombo, is something the matter? I wish to apologize, Lord Hien. It was wrong of me to say the things I said. I understand nothing can bring back my father, but I was so angry. Please, Tombo, you needn't apologize. It's just my brother was always so brave, and my father's death was more than he could bear, and he turned that monster. If he wasn't brave enough, what chance do I have? We wanted to perform the rites for father, but the body was never returned to us, so... Not that I blame you for that, I understand nothing could be done. That Aketsu's father survived is nothing short of a miracle, but I fear he is indeed the rare exception. I've offered prayers at more graves than I can count, and it would be cruel to give others the false hope that the loved ones might return. And yet Kisei continues to do that, offering comfort in her lies, a tempting but ephemeral balm for wounds that have yet to heal, much like the anger some harbor for you, or resentment for families restored while theirs remain broken. Yeah, I think that's precisely why Kisei is so desperate to try and help the blasphemy kill its targets, not just out of because she's convinced due to being a woman of faith, but also because she also suffers the despair of her family remaining torn apart while so many others were reunited. But for those like that poor boy whose hearts lack for hatred, who know only sadness and despair, aye, they too may turn. Exposing the truth of Kisei's deception hasn't helped matters. If we are to prevent more suffering, we must pursue a lasting solution. I would be most grateful for your counsel, Gosetsu. There is much I could learn from your pilgrimage. If there is aught you require, but say the word and it shall be done. It is the least I can do for the part I played in Yotsuyu's tragedy. I failed her in the end, but I will not fail you, my lord. Thank you again for your aid, Koda. The day's events have given me much to consider. When our next step is decided, you will be the first to know. A singular gift. Yugiri's stern expression suggests she has no good news to share. Regrettably, there have been no sightings of the blasphemy since our first encounter at Shoal Rock. As Tensui surmised, it seems to fear confrontation. We, for our part, have tried to make good use of this intervening calm. Even now, Lord Hien and Gosetsu would discuss how we might prevent other villagers from turning. He would wait here a moment. He would no doubt wish to hear your thoughts on the matter as well. Sounds like a plan. You know, normally I'd think the bow on my characters would be a little much, but since he's basically a cat, well, a cat with a ribbon actually makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Oda, I'm so glad you'd come. As Yugiri no doubt has explained, the blasphemy continues to elude us, and so we have turned our attention to other matters we can and should address. After long discussion and deliberation, we believe we found a way to allay the growing malaise of our people. Would you, Gosetsu? He may not be able to wield a sword anymore, but he can at least wield the wisdom and knowledge he's gained as a travel monk. Well, not like the monk as in the one we fight with fists and feet, but a monk as in, you know, the dedicating to their inner peace and all that. Although I guess I'm thinking too much again. The idea came to us after considering Yon Tombo's remarks about his father, whose body was never found and returned to Doma. Others no doubt share in the melancholy, unable to bear in more on their loved ones as is their right. Put simply, we cannot make peace with their loss. Their anguish, if left to linger, may consume them as well. That we might provide the people of Doma some comfort and closure, we will hold a national funeral at the Swallow's Compass. Those who choose to attend will be asked to present personal effects of the deceased they wish to have enshrined there. Spirits reside in all things, be they living or inanimate, and though we may die, a part of us lives on in the items we cherished most in life. Therefore, in lieu of remains, those belongings will be afforded a place in the royal mausoleum. The spirits of those lost to us may find a way home to Doma and at last know peace. The announcement has already been made, and a great many people are now engaged in the difficult task of deciding which keepsake will serve as their offering. It is not a decision to be made lightly, but I suspect they will have made up their minds by the time we go to collect their chosen tokens. I also hope to learn more about the departed from those willing to speak with me, for my benefit and theirs. To break free of their sorrow, they must freely seek joy in the memories and love they shared with the departed, and I will help them find it. Might the Liberator of Doma be willing to favor other people with his presence as well? I doubt not they'll appreciate the gesture. Of course. Good, Yugiri, leave the people of Isari to you. Gosetsu, might I ask that you... Apologies, my lord, there's a small, most urgent matter I must first attend to. I have an inkling what he might have in mind, but let's see where the story goes. Very well, I shall not pry. Now, Kota, let us go and pray to visit the good people of Namai. Right then, before we begin, I would remind you that you only need to listen to tales of their loved ones. As overseer of the ceremony, I'll see it as my duty to deliver their effects personally. Because of this, it is of the utmost importance we keep clear of any beasts that might damage our cargo. It goes without saying that how important it is their offerings be delivered in pristine condition, and I'll be no good to you in a fight while heavily encumbered. If stealth or flight are not options, I must ask you fight for both. We needn't worry unless the occasion arises. For now, let us be off. I cannot believe it, we are finally... Oh, I think that's from Stormblood, actually. Although I guess it could also count for Endwalker, given... Grieving Elder. I must thank you again, Lord Ian, for this honor. My son would have been overjoyed to know his katana will be enshrined at the Swallow's compass. Hey, the honor's mine. I'm sure your son was a fine warrior. Aye, and so was I, once upon a time. A samurai, as it happens, in service to your father when the Empire was first invaded our lands. Though we were defeated, our spirits broken, my son, Motose Tsue, was never one to lose hope. He was determined to follow my footsteps, gave his everything to honing his skill with the blade. While I watched him train, I felt pride. I thought I had forsaken swell in my breast, and I knew he would restore our family to its former glory. Alas. He could have fled, perhaps started life anew as a vagabond of some sorts, but he bore the burden and fought for Garlemald, for fear of what the Imperials might do if he did not. It is plain he was a loving son and a warrior true. I will care for his blade as if it were mine own, and see it given the honor of respect due to a samurai of Doma. Yeah, like with all Amigo, a lot of them fought for the Empire entirely because they thought that was the right thing to do. Not because they liked it, but because they felt there was no alternative. Bereaved woman. My husband, my dear sweet Moroi, never returned from Garlemald. Perhaps now his soul might know peace. Please take this painting brush to the Swallow Compass. I shall handle with utmost care. Might we trouble you to tell us more about your husband? Moroi was a kind and gentle soul. There was nothing he loved more in the world than to create. That brush never left his side, not even when he tended the fields. Any spare moment he had to dedicate to his craft. Any spare moment was dedicated to his craft, and he produced the most wonderful vistas of Yanxia. It was his dream to take us to Kugane, where he could become a famous artist, until he was conscripted. In the early days, he'd send drawings to the places they took him, though I know not how. But more time began to pass between each arrival until they stopped coming altogether. I know not in what far-flung land he died, but I pray it was as beautiful as his works. He sounds like quite a man, to hold fast to his art even when forced to endure such hardship. His soul will find peace, of that I have no doubt. Dancer getting 3 stacks of gap closer is pretty nice. Although not technically a gap closer because you can go to and fro with it just fine. You don't even need a target, which is actually really rare in this game. Usually when your character has a mobility booster, you need to be able to target something, either a party member or enemy, or sometimes both. So yeah, being able to dash around however you please is a really nice thing I like about Dancer. It also helps when I want to avoid certain mechanics in boss fights, which is always nice. Guess we should talk to Tombo himself now. Definitely going to be the harder one. I realize it's quite large, but I wanted to offer this on behalf of my brother and our father, Suzushiro. If you're willing, I'd very much like to hear about them both. My father, he was a carpenter. He was a good man, if a bit stubborn, always thinking about his work. The only time he ever seemed to enjoy himself was when he had a cup of sake in his hand. When my brother came of age, he took up the trade as well. It brought them closer. I'd see them laughing over drinks together, or listening in silence to the crickets singing under the moonlight. I wanted to join them one day. This was their favorite sake. I thought they might miss it. I'm sure it will taste all the sweeter having come from you. Ian really has a good way with words, dang. I realize no one can ever replace your brother or father, but if you will allow, I'd be honored to share drinks with you in their stead, when you are of age, of course. This should be everything. Would you join me for a short reprieve before our journey back? Yeah, he warned that we might get into a fight at some point, and that can only happen if we have to leave the village for a particular location. One that is likely to bring us through, Oh. It didn't. How weird. I guess it could be referring to some fights that go on in the village during Stormblood, but that means... I guess they wanted to prepare in case someone was doing Stormblood there at the same time someone was doing the role quest. Like, if it's in the overworld with that purple smoke, you can help other players with the monsters if you so wish, but you don't have to, obviously. That's why the quest only requires that they die before you can help the person under attack or whatever you find. They put on brave faces, but the people of Namai are still racked with grief. It is the same at every village I've visited in recent days. But it is only now that I'm struck by the contradictory nature of my goals. Having joined the Eastern Alliance and taken steps to revitalize the Enclave, I believed Doma was at last on the path to peace and prosperity. I still do, and yet by focusing keenly on the future, I neglected the past, which yet haunts my people. Even if they do not give in to despair, they become beasts that plagued our land, and become even if they do not give in to despair and become beasts that plague our lands like poor Tombo's brother. How are we to truly move forward if we are constantly looking back? You speak of their haunted past, Lord Hien, but what about yours? Me? All things considered, I suppose it was only a matter of time before the subject was broached. He cuts to the heart of the matter, and the young lord. For the best, I should think, he cannot lead by example if he's not yet made peace with his own past. 1,000 apologies, my lord. I was passing through and tending to matters of which I spoke to earlier when I chanced to hear familiar voices in the distance. If I may be so bold, the people of Doma one and all understand the source of your pain. To lose your father in the turmoil of a failed rebellion, his staggering duty to the throne thrust upon you. How can you even begin to mourn when first you had to lead? It would behoove you to take part in the funeral rites, my lord. Take this time to make peace with your past while it's still yours to spend. Though unlikely, if not impossible, were you to become a monster as well, Duma would surely be lost. I thank you for your counsel, Gosetsu, but if I may ask, why does it keep your blade at the ready? I thought this was a personal matter of yours, was to be naught but a trifle. Or am I mistaken? Well, I find the katana a superior tool for healing persimmons. Speaking of which, I do believe my stomach begs for sustenance, if you'll excuse me. Training to help slay the blasphemy, no doubt. Fitting he should offer me counsel, yet refuse to heed it in kind. He's not the warrior he once was, but he is wise, our obstinate friend. If I'm to be perfectly honest, it frightens me to recall it, the moment it all came crashing down. We had taken the Doma Castle. Victory was ours, but then we looked out and saw the banners of the 12th Legion marching towards us. Crown Prince of the Four. No sooner had Gosetsu and I escaped that we received word Zenos had slain my father. I remember how the fight went out of Gosetsu in an instant, how he wept for his lord, and how, while I felt the weight of a profound duty bear upon my shoulders, crushing, suffocating, the heat of my own breath, the chill of my clammy palms. But duty demanded I master my emotions. When all those around me, Gosetsu included, were consumed by anger and thirst for vengeance, I had to be in control. Under my orders, we dispersed and fled to fight another day. To this day, I have not stopped to reflect on my father's death. How could I, devoting as I am to finding Doma's way forward? But now I must, and so having taken you into my confidence, would you see this through would you see this through with me to journey's end? The keepsake I would offer up for the funeral is hidden in a place not easily reached. We will have to fly there, I'm afraid, but worry not. My Yol will ferry us. Just a moment. Some quests don't hesitate to require you to have unlocked flight in the area, but a lot of them... The place we seek is Plum Spring in the mountains, shall we? The game does have a mount travel system like this, where you can go through certain places with chocobos and other birds, but... Other bird-like creatures, but... They're just not used very often since the teleportation system is so convenient. I mean, it is nice if you want to keep an eye out for anything in particular that might be on the way, but... The Glittering Basin, Plum Spring. That's Castrum Fulmin. Oops. My parents would bring me here for Hanami as a child. Its beauty and serenity was such that I could forget the realities of the occupation. Indeed, some of my fondest memories of family are here, which is precisely why I chose this place to conceal the singular gift my father bequeathed me to me as a child. A Sun Wukong plushie. Charming, is it not? The great allspice Huiton Dasheng, said to reside somewhere in the Daryu chain. I believe we actually do meet him at some point. In those days, everyone knew the tales of his prowess. Reckless boy that I was, I once even tried to seek him out, hoping he might help us. I buried it here shortly after my coming-of-age ceremony. It seemed a fitting place to both part with my childhood and offer a final goodbye to my mother. More a keepsake of mine than his, to be sure. He was never a man of worldly possessions. Still, I suspect he would allow himself the rare smile if he were to see it again after all these years. And is precisely how I wish to bid him farewell, with a smile. I should go without saying I'd prefer it not to become known that I kept this doll here. Wouldn't want the children to go jealous now, would we? And with that, I believe it's time we return to the Enclave. There are yet more villages to offer. To visit and offerings to collect, but preparations are proceeding apace. Soon the people have one less cause to be tempted down the death of despair. Of course, there still remains the problem of the blasphemy. The former conscripts will remain at Kiankan until it's been dealt with. We'll slay the beast in due time. Before then, I'd be honored if you were to be present for the funeral rites. Pray speak with Yugiri when you next visit the Enclave. She'll tell you more about the proceedings. If it's the same one I already had. Coconut cod chowder. A Near Eastern soup brimming with shallows cod, simmered with silky coconut milk. Laid to rest. Yugiri's somber expression suggests you've arrived right on time. As ever, your timing is impeccable, but we but moments ago completed preparations for the funeral. I will inform Lord Hien of your arrival. Looks like we may actually attend this one, unlike the Alamegan Honor. But then again, that one was specifically for Alamegans, so maybe it made sense we didn't need to be there directly. Ah, you're here. Excellent. The blasphemy can use to shun our settlements, and I mean to make the most of our time its absence affords us. I assume you are planning to take part in the ceremony? That's the plan, yes. Glad to hear it. Unfortunately, Gosetsu will not be joining us today. He's injured himself, as I knew he would in his secret training, and now grumbles in the confines of his bed. Yeah, like I said, he and Yotsuyu survived the fall of the castle during the Stormblood storyline, and Yotsuyu lost her memories, and he lost a lot of his. He got a grave injury that prevented him from being able to fight, and so of course he tried to train to get it back, but yeah, obviously, as you can, like I said, he can't. He simply can't fight anymore. So I guess it only makes sense an accident like that would happen. But he'll be fine in due course. We may worry over his convalescence after the funeral. Yeah, the Swallow's Compass was a dungeon. I actually think I can teleport here to the mercantile docks right away. So let's do precisely that. Yep, the one river. The one river to rule them all. Fortunately, I will be a little bit gimped in this fight. As I mentioned, Dancer is the absolute extreme of a support over support over personal DPS, and yep, as I figured. There's a peculiar-looking doll among the effects, but I can find no record among it in our stores. Would you happen to know who brought it? I guess Ian really doesn't want to admit it to anyone. Yeah. Basically, the way one of Dancer's main gimmicks is they use closed position here to mark a dance partner. And basically, whoever I mark as a dance partner shares in all of my buffs. Devilment. Yeah, so it even says here, party member designated as your dance partner also receives Devilment, which is a critical hit rate and direct hit rate boost by 20% each. What's the trait here? Yeah. Enhanced Devilment grants Flourishing Starfall, which is a critical hit to all enemies in a line before. Mostly, Dancer did not change much between Shadowbringers and Endwalker. The only real major change of difference is they've gotten a few more chains. However, the primary gimmick, aside from the dance partner, is that they are proc-based instead of combo-based. So basically every single move I have gets a 50% or whatever chance to allow me to use another skill, which then has a chance of adding another, like one of these two, then a 50 or whatever chance of adding another to allow me to use the fan dance here, which then a chance to use fan dance, these later fan dances. Now, I do have some ways to get around the RNG, like Flourish here grants me everything, so I can use all my proc skills and guarantees a proc on all my skills. And all my skills, period, fill a little meter here, which is used to dispense on Saber Dance. But by and large, there's a lot of RNG in the dancer rotation. So depending on how your thoughts are on that, dancer could be either really fun or really frustrating, since if you are lucky, you can get a bunch of really big attacks a decent amount of the time, but if you're unlucky, you can also just be stuck doing like 2 moves over and over again, waiting for something to get off cooldown. Villagers shall arrive before ere long. Then we may begin. Lord, he and I. Apologies, my lord, for my past transgressions. I yearn to believe my daughter was a kami reborn, but you are right. She is a monster. Words can ill express my shame for advocating the conscripts be sacrificed to appease the dead. Nay, the ceremony shall serve far, far better, and so as a humble citizen of Doma, I offer my deepest gratitude and beg for your forgiveness. I would make an offering on behalf of my husband and son, as well as my now dear stepdaughter, Minato. I throw myself at your mercy to allow them place within the mausoleum, so that their spirits may know peace. Interesting. What brings about this change of heart? There's no need to beg forgiveness, Kisei. Please rise. I was worried. She was fast, but Yugiri was faster. She will come for you. Fine, this makes things much easier for us. By the Kami, she gave her life to draw out the blasphemy. Odds are she probably figured this would probably fail, but best case scenario, she gets Hien. Worst case scenario, she draws the blasphemy Izanami over to us. Upgrade my gear here a bit. Oh, it sinks at 550 anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Well, no matter. Can I mark Hien as my dance partner? Oh, yes, I can. When it comes to green NPC allies, the game kind of swaps off between whether they count as party members or not. For example, when the Astrologian, the Astro usually can't give their card buffs to green allies, but during healer role quests they can because they're specifically programmed to allow that. And I guess they figured, well, we should allow Dancer to do that as well because that's kind of their entire gimmick. Well, one of them, anyway. Needs a charge. Kota, can you break its focus? Interrupted. Well struck. The amount of times, again, like I mentioned with the tank, the amount of actually interruptible skills you can do in each expansion feel like they can be counted on one hit. Lightning tendrils. Oh, right. Probably a good idea to do that. Yeah, and you see why I like the ability to dash wherever the hell I want. Oops, I can't let my meter fill like that. I still need to get...
Concentrate.
Formidable foe indeed, but we will not be bested. Let's get some defenses up, shall we? Ah, that hurts like hell. It is nothing. I'm gonna wait a moment to get until there we are. Have care, the air is thick with her malice. Oh crap. Well, that was a little embarrassing. It's ready to strike, be on your guard. Down for the count. I can't move. Well, I tried to keep the party healed best I could, but this is rough. Spell tags. Apologies for the untimely arrival, my lord. Gosetsu, what is that staff? Pilgrimage proved a most enlightening experience, and is where I chanced to discover the benefits of aesthetic training. I may no longer be fit to wield a blade, my lord, but Shingundu affords me another way to turn the tide of battle. Sure, we're basically 3 DPS, with Hien also pulling double duties as a tank. No healer. It's a bit rough. Stubborn as ever, I shall have to thank you later. Let us put an end to this. As you can guess, I have the improvisation, the AoE party heal off, because the dancer doesn't use it very often. I can't move or attack while it's active, so it's only used during very, very specific points. Again, one of those things you normally don't get to use, but... is Hien still marked as partner? Yes, he is. Looks like Izanami is still at 57%.
For you, father.
You have my thanks. Comes for me. Perhaps a gazing shot will break its focus. Oopsie. We must share the brunt of the blow. I'm not so easily broken. I sense something amiss quickly to me. Test of my will in training both. Hold fast, everyone. Well done, Gosetsu. Now I believe it's past time we put Minato's soul to rest.
The wings of a shinobi's power.
Stormblood boss music is almost nostalgic at this point. Not my full damage out of that, but... Tis but a scratch. We are misguided ire. Flee. Nice thing about being a ranged physical is you don't have casting times or positionals. You can just focus entirely on attacking. Here we are. Finished off with Saber Dance. Stylish finish for one of the more stylish jobs. There we go. A deceiver to the bitter end, but she's still a daughter of Duma. She will have a proper burial and her family belongings enshrined with the others. Yeah, pretty much everything now confirms that she was indeed a deceiver from even when she claimed to have these powers in the very start, back when she was at the Underwater City. No wonder the Ruby Princess was able to find a way to see through it. I've gathered you here today not to speak of the future, but to reflect on the past, to pay respect to the loved ones fallen on the field of battle. To honor the sacrifices, the sons and daughters of Duma shall be given a place here, at the Swallow's Compass. Though they no longer walk with us in life, they walk with us in spirit. Pray never forget their bravery. The memories of legacy give you comfort and strength. Moroya Motokawa, the aspiring painter, a man who saw beauty in all things and one day would have become a renowned artist in Kugane. Motosu Jito, a warrior in training, he longed to become a samurai like his father and bring honor to his family. Tsujishiro Horikumi, the carpenter, a man wholly dedicated to his craft, who hoped to one day pass his talents onto his two loving children. Just think, oh crap, I forgot. I actually have any characters in the game who have been able to speak with the dead, the ones in the Ethereal Sea, the life stream. I guess that's why couldn't remember an exact scene where it happened until just now, but I could swear it did happen at some point. That's why I was very eager to avoid. That's why I was not too eager to directly call her a fraud at the start, because we just don't know. And lastly, Minato Jihogaki and her stepmother Kisei. Theirs was once a happiness to be envied. Minato's parents were murdered by Imperial soldiers, and after being rescued by the Confederacy, Minato was given to the care of the village of Isari. Though she arrived with a broken heart, it was soon mended by a man who'd become her husband, the son of Kisei, who herself had been born to Isari on the winds of tragedy. Kisei was the child of the deep, born to Suino Sato. For her gifts, she was exiled, but with her courage and tenacity, found a new home on the shores of the Ruby Sea. She was a devoted wife and mother, and though not related by blood, she loved Minato as though she were her own. I suppose for all of her failings, that was one thing she genuinely had with her. She did genuinely care for her daughter-in-law. And that is how she lived, how they all lived, and how they should be remembered. Let their hearts not swell with sorrow, but with joy for their memory. Know that proof of their mark left upon this world shall remain here, enshrined within the swallow's compass for all eternity. Let us still our voices and pray for their souls. They may share in the peace that we have found. Many tears were shed through the ceremony, not for grief, but for relief, I think. Happiness, even. Traditionally, the royal mausoleum is reserved for the ruling clans, but I have no doubt Lord Kain would approve of his son's decision. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting a battle with a blasphemy as a prelude to the ceremony. At least we may now breathe easy, if only for a short while. The villagers have all returned home, and I believe it's time we did the same. I like how every overworld has different music, whether it's day or nighttime. It's even... and obviously it's very thematic as well. If you recall from earlier, it was a much more somber tune at night, while here it's a little bit more upbeat, since the Yangtze Valley has a lot of farming villages and such. Though, of course, Shadowbringers does it quite the opposite, funny enough. It actually has triumphant themes at night, and the daytime is more somber. Of course, that's obviously due to the theme. Shadowbringers was about a world that was ended by everlasting light, and so to bring back the night is to bring back hope and the future itself. Little things like that really do a lot in this game, I think. Never in my wildest dreams did I see Gosetsu embracing the aesthetic arts. His physical strength may have left him, but his mind is as sharp as ever, and so it makes sense to lean into that, to focus more on magic. I'm not yet well versed in healing magics, but thankfully it was enough to be of some use to Lord Hien. We've held a national funeral and a slain blasphemy besides, a rather productive day, would you not agree? The former conscripts will be elated to finally be able to return home. Speaking of returns, I think I speak for all of us when I say your appearance at Swallow's Compass came as something as a shock. What of your injuries from training? Quite painful for some time, I assure you. Despite my best efforts to reclaim my former skills, my back and hips vigorously protested. I planned to sleep that I might be well rested for tomorrow's hunt, but a voice called out to me. I was needed, so I grabbed my cane and ran as quickly as my ailing body would allow. The cane suits you, Gosetsu, but your mastery of healing magics was a sight to behold, almost as surprising as your resurrection following the fall of Duma Castle. I am still but a novice in dire need of training. It is my hope that I will be able to refine my aesthetic arts in our next pilgrimage. So you're leaving again, then? Worry not, Lord Hien. Should you find yourself in dire straits once more, I shall fly to your side. Not as a samurai, perhaps, but I will nonetheless give our enemies cause to tremble. And with that, I take my leave. Though it may be years, if not decades, until we truly make peace with our past, we have turned a corner and begun to heal. We may look to a future unburdened by grief ignored and sadness denied. The path ahead is ever fraught with peril, but we shall walk it with eyes unclouded and with pride. You have done so much for us for Doma. I wish there was more I could do for you. Oh, the Emperor himself is now bowing. If I may ask you one last favor before you leave, please inform our representative at Razat Han that the blasphemy has been vanquished. The people of Doma are safe. With any luck, our experiences here will prove useful to other nations that may yet grapple with these beasts. Leave it to me. I guess now this is over. I can now say I do already know that there is a combined quest for completing all role quests. Now, I don't know if it's an especially long one or a short one, and I hesitate to start it tonight when I don't know how long it will take. If it's about as long as this one, that's another 2 hours, and I don't want to take too long, but at the same time, if it's if it's a short one, I could easily get both done tonight. First things first, let's let the Doma delegate. Master Coda, have returned. What word from Doma? It's over. Blasphemy is no more? That's most wonderful news. I must inform the other delegates at once. Thank you again for answering our summons. If another threat should rear its dastardly head, I pray we can count on your assistance again. And that is all role quests complete. You can now dye job-specific gear for physical range DPS. More than loneliness. Glint in Sarabot's eyes suggest she was hoping you might pass through. While the Veil of Despair has been lifted from Gridania, our work is far from finished. It will take time and effort for people to accept the pieces returned. News of your victory will sure to spread It's long. Allow me to offer my thanks on behalf of my comrades in Alamigo. With the blasphemy finally dealt with, they can all breathe a sigh of relief. I cannot thank you enough for assisting the blasphemy hunters in Alamigo, and for your work in addressing the root cause of the phenomenon. We as a country have been made to take a long, hard look at ourselves and the way we treat each other. Perhaps now we can pave a way for a better future. As one. Excellent. To think the notorious commander of the Company of Heroes would show his face after all these years. Thanks to you, the people of Doma have earned a short reprieve from the woes that befall our world. Should I find time to visit the Swallow's Compass, I should keep you in my prayers as I pay respects. Ah, my Lord Coda. When you have a moment, I am ever eager to hear about your adventures. Alright. Well, that is all the quests done. Let me check something, actually. See if I can check it right now. Let's see. Let's see if I can find try to find if there's it tells me exactly how long the combined role quest is, but I can't seem to find it. I think the reason for this is because most of these guides on the role quest for Endwalker came out when Endwalker itself came out, which is good. That means they're timely, but the Master Role oh, it's Master Role Quest, huh? Let's see here. Yeah, the final role quest was added in 6.1, the one that just dropped. 5 different jobs, one of each category. Let's see here. Let me try this again here then. Let me see exactly how long it is, if it's listed here somewhere. Let's see here. How long is it? Hmm. Alright, looks like, without spoiling myself, it looks like there's, it's about an hour and a half, so I'm going to go ahead and call it here and do this stream on another day. Probably not immediately tomorrow, because I do have a few other games I want to get back to. For example, it's been a while since I did Stardew Valley. But I'll definitely be dealing with that then. When I can dye this now. Oh, so it's that gets it, huh? I might mess around with this. Like I said, I usually use this particular glamour set outfit for my dancer, but extension to the other range damage dealers. But I really like the damager, the dancer artifact gear this time around. So I may try to incorporate some or all of it into the outfit. I'll see how I can make it look. Alright, but until next time, thank you for watching, hope you had a good time, and I'll see you later.